Welcome to Infinite Heart Stories, where we explore the hidden wisdom of life. Today, we discover why timing is everything. Meet Daniel, a young man of 26 who believed that success was just one more expensive online course away from happening. He was intelligent and incredibly ambitious, consuming knowledge like water. Yet, he felt like he was dying of thirst in a desert. He hired expensive coaches and attended every seminar, convinced that if he just copied the experts, he would become one himself. But despite his frantic efforts and sleepless nights, every single business venture he launched crashed and burned within a few months. The harder he tried to force success, the faster it ran away from him, leaving him bankrupt and completely emotionally drained. He had followed every rule and applied every formula, yet he was left with nothing but broken dreams and heavy debt. Daniel finally reached a breaking point where he decided to stop chasing the illusion of being a millionaire by age 30. He took a humble job at a local coffee shop to pay his debts, leaving his ego at the door. For the first time in years, he was not trying to be someone special. He was just trying to be useful. In this simple routine, his mind began to quiet down, and he started to actually see the people around him clearly. Among the regulars was Robert, an older gentleman who never looked at his phone and always seemed perfectly at peace. Daniel felt drawn to Robert's energy, not because he looked rich, but because he possessed a quiet and powerful dignity. In the past, Daniel would have tried to pitch a business idea to him, but now, he just watched with curiosity. This was the first sign of his transformation. He was finally ready to listen, instead of just waiting to speak. One quiet afternoon, Daniel approached the table and asked Robert how he managed to stay so calm in a chaotic world. Robert smiled and invited him to sit, recognizing that the young man was no longer looking for a quick fix. Daniel poured out his story of failed businesses and bankruptcy, admitting he had tried everything, but nothing seemed to work. The older man listened without judgment, knowing that this confession was the necessary soil for a new seed to grow. He told Daniel that the problem was never the business models or the economy, but the foundation of the builder. Robert pointed to a massive oak tree outside the window and asked Daniel to describe what he saw in that moment. Daniel talked about the tall branches and the green leaves, focusing on how high the tree reached into the sky. Robert shook his head and explained that the most important part of the tree is the part that nobody sees. A tree must grow its roots deep into the darkness of the soil, long before it can ever touch the sky. You spent years trying to grow branches and fruit without having any roots, so the first wind blew you over. Daniel realized that for years he had been trying to build a penthouse on a foundation made of wet sand. Real success is not about what you display to the world, but who you become when nobody is watching you. You were reading books to impress others, not to learn. You were acting like a CEO, not becoming a leader. The shame washed over him, but it was quickly replaced by the liberating feeling of finally understanding the truth. Robert told him that the teacher appears only when the student is ready, because an arrogant mind cannot learn anything. Before today, your cup was too full of ego and pretense. Now that it is empty, you can finally fill it. Daniel asked what he should do next, expecting a complex strategy, but Robert simply told him to grow his roots. Forget about becoming rich for a while. Focus on character, discipline, and doing small things with great love and care. So Daniel went back to work, but this time he treated cleaning the floor like it was the most important job. He read books to understand human nature and philosophy, seeking wisdom rather than shortcuts to quick financial gain. He learned to master his own mind, developing the patience and resilience that he had always lacked in the past. Seasons changed, and Daniel continued his quiet cultivation, no longer rushing, trusting that his time would eventually come. Robert watched him grow from a distance, offering small pieces of advice, but mostly letting Daniel find his own way. 2 years passed before Daniel felt the urge to build again. But this time, the motivation came from a different place. He drafted a plan focused on value and service, built on the solid foundation of the character he had developed. He left the coffee shop with the blessings of his co-workers, who respected him for his hard work and humility. He started small, without fanfare or expensive launches, focusing entirely on delivering quality to his first few clients. When problems arose, as they always do, he did not panic. His roots were deep enough to weather the storm. He handled challenges with grace and honesty, turning potential failures into opportunities to build trust with his customers. His business grew slowly but steadily, built on reputation and quality rather than hype and empty marketing promises. One day, he returned to the coffee shop to find Robert, not to brag, but simply to say thank you. He showed Robert what he had built, a company that reflected the values of patience and integrity he had learned. Robert looked at him and said that the oak tree was finally ready to reach for the sky. Daniel realized that the teacher had always been there, but he had been too blind to see him. Knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad. He had learned that you cannot demand success from the universe. You must become the person who deserves it. Now, Daniel has become the teacher for others, passing on the lesson of the roots to the next generation. Just like the tree, we must all spend time in the dark soil of hard work before we can shine. If you are struggling today, ask yourself if you are trying to build the roof before you have laid the foundation. Do not rush the process. The height of your success will always equal the depth of your personal character. The quiet corner is still there, waiting for anyone who is willing to stop running and start truly living. The bond between student and teacher is sacred, but it only forms when the student opens their heart to learn. Be patient with yourself. Growth is often invisible at first, happening deep within where no one else can see. Success that is built fast will collapse fast. Success that is built on roots will last for a lifetime. Look at nature. It never rushes, yet everything is accomplished. Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. Daniel found happiness not in the destination, but in the daily practice of being his best authentic self. He no longer feared failure, because he knew that failure was just another way to deepen his roots further. Somewhere, a teacher is waiting for you right now, but they will remain invisible until you are truly ready. Ask yourself honestly today, are you ready to stop pretending and start learning? The choice is entirely yours. Your journey begins the moment you drop the mask and accept that you still have so much to learn. Let your roots grow deep into the soil of humility, and your branches will one day touch the stars. Remember the 3 lessons. First, build your internal foundation before you try to build your external empire. Second, empty your cup. You cannot learn anything new if you think you already know all the answers. Third, trust the timing of your life. The teacher appears when the student is ready, never a moment before. Daniel wrote a new story for his life, and you have the power to do exactly the same thing. The world is full of noise, but if you listen closely to your heart, you will find your path. If this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message today. We are building a community of people who value depth over speed. Join us by subscribing to our channel. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. May your roots grow deep and your spirit fly high. This has been Infinite Heart Stories. Stay humble, stay curious, and keep growing until we meet again next time.